Welcome, folks, to another episode of the Lone Wolf Howlcast, howling out for logic and reason into the night. Ta-ra! We just had a very small, probably forgettable historical event just happen.
Some election or something.
That's right. We're doing an election special tonight. We just watched Biden's conciliatory but also victory speech.
Acceptance speech?
Acceptance speech. So we'll call it an acceptance speech, although...
Technically?
Not once did he say that he accepted the presidency at all, the American people's...
Actually, you're right. He never did say, I accept your nomination for president or, you know...
Right, all right, I accept... we're dancing around the words, and Terrell and I can't come up with it right now, but...
No, accept the nomination. Once. He never said, I accept the nomination to be president. Yeah,
he never did say that in his speech.
He said a lot of other things.
He said a lot of other stuff, and we're going to get into that right now. So, Kamala Harris, she spoke first, I have to say. That was a pretty sweet pimp suit that she was wearing.
Very flashy, complimented her skin tone, and I can't remember a word she said other than she's happy to be vice president, and, you know, who knows a girl from where she came from would be. The only thing memorable about her appearance was that I felt like she was giddy. Like, she was genuinely happy and can't believe where she is right now. And
I'm going to be the bad guy for a minute. You know why she's happy?
She's the
first female vice president of the United States ever.
I think she was... Okay,
her name is now in the history books as number one.
I think she's happy because she had a failing campaign that was hot in the beginning and just screwed the pooch as primaries went on. And she
Elaborate. Where do you think her campaigning failed?
Let's start with where it was good. She scored huge points with busing.
Busing?
Yeah. Like, there was this early on civil rights policy where you would bus students, minorities from poor areas into richer areas that were all white and all white schools to integrate. And it was because of busing that she was able to get a good elementary school education and whatnot. And she posted a picture of her waiting for a bus, and I think Biden was against busing, or I forget who it was. Yeah, I think it was Biden who was against busing, and she was like, you know, there's girls out there that just needed a chance to shine, and he goes like, well, you know, back then, you know, I was and then she responds like, I was that girl. And then that was her peak of her campaign. That was the first Democratic debate. Well, after that, due to gross mismanagement, her sister was her campaign manager.
That's one thing I've learned is you never ever involve family with politics and business. You never partner with a family member in business, and I've never been a politician, folks. Not yet anyway, we'll see.
But we're guessing.
But I would assume you would never ever choose your family on your campaign trail to actually manage your campaign.
Yeah, her sister was completely not qualified, and she just mismanaged it. And then Kamala mismanaged it because she was good with prepared one-liners. Kamala Harris is extremely inauthentic. She's not someone you would trust to be able to respond like a human alive.
To respond on the fly?
No, she's not. She has to have everything prepared. So she had a kind of promising start and then failed her way up. She went, you know, she's a corporate Democrat, meaning she goes where the money is. Mm-hmm. She's not authentic. She's not moral. She was a horrible prosecutor in California. She became the head prosecutor, or like the attorney general.
And we can confirm that with her court records, I would assume, yes?
Yeah, absolutely.
If we needed to, right, okay.
Yeah, she's gotten people in the death penalty that were innocent, knowing they were innocent, multiple times. So this is not a particularly good human being. But the Democrats, once Biden got the nomination for president, he had to pick someone, and amongst the list of people to pick, Biden is also a corrupt, you know, will do whatever is told him to do.
Wait a minute, Terrell, I think you just blew my mind. Are you saying politicians are corrupt?
And
they're out for themselves?
It is really strange. I know.
I gotta walk away.
I'm going out on a limb.
I'm walking away for a minute. I'm too shook right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, they told Biden pick her because she follows directions.
Mm-hmm.
And Biden follows directions. So you're not going to get anyone who wasn't going to follow the company line or the corporate donors.
Right.
There were people who were candidates for both president and vice president positions that would have been independent thinkers, and the Democrats said absolutely not. So Kamala Harris is extremely unqualified, inauthentic, very corrupt, knowingly put people in death penalty situations, even though when they were innocent. That's our vice president, and that's. I firmly think she will be the president within a year.
I agree with that. I don't think Joe Biden's going to last the 4 years at all, considering just meeting heads of state. He's had to take breaks doing that.
Yeah. Granted, he's an old man. I mean, there's nothing particularly wrong with him.
So you said something a minute ago. You mentioned it a few times that you suspect Kamala Harris is very corrupt, and her sister was her campaign manager.
Right.
You make me think about, and again, folks, if you haven't gotten it by now, I'm always going to play the bad guy and look at the hard questions that everybody else is afraid of. I wonder how much money laundering was done through the sister as the campaign manager. Here's a check. Here's your paycheck.
So according to the records and analysis I've seen, not as much.
Mm-hmm.
Brad Pascal for the Trump campaign did probably the most in U.S. history.
Money laundering.
So you had Trump skimming over the top. You had Trump's kids skimming over the top. Then you had Brad Pascal, who was the campaign manager for the Trump 2020 campaign, and he skimmed so much money off the top. There was a situation where if the money kept coming in, no one would have noticed. But with the Trump campaign, people noticed that, hey, we're giving these people so much money, but where are the ads? Where's the ad spend? Where's the things on the ground? And eventually, word got out that the efficiency of the money to actual campaign spending was abysmal. And then rumors got out about Brad Pascal and Trump family and all this other stuff. So what ended up happening, also Don Jr.'s girlfriend, Gofo, I think is the way pronounced. She used to be a Fox News anchor.
I don't remember her name, but I know the story you're referencing.
Yeah, she's heavily surgically enhanced, but she looks hard to me. They put her as a fundraiser camp manager, and she was grossly
incompetent.
Grossly unqualified, incompetent. She goes ahead and replaces everyone in a very successful operation before she came in. The Trump campaign was raising incredible amounts of money before she became the head. She replaced everyone qualified with her friends because it's a make-work situation. She wanted to make money. She wanted her friends to make money. And pretty much once she took over the Trump campaign donations just dropped off a cliff. So you had the Trump situation where they stopped spending money on battleground states. They stopped having money. They stopped paying for buses to and from. So all those situations with craziness with money is because the Trump campaign literally didn't, and donors were no longer willing to give money to the Trump campaign. Instead, they said, well, we know this money's going to get hijacked, so we're just going to use super PACs. So at the last month and a half of this election, the Trump campaign literally couldn't raise cash.
Wow.
And whatever cash was spent on him was spent specifically in ways that him and his cronies and everybody else couldn't do it.
So you realize we're going to have to provide a proof of purchase on this. So
there's all the receipts are all available online. None of this is the reason
none
why
of it is speculative. And none of this is conspiracy theory.
No.
There's hard evidence of this.
Yeah. The reason why all this came out is because Brad Pascal. Okay, so remember how I was saying everyone's skimming off the top. Mm-hmm. When funds are growing, it's like a corporation or a business. When things are going well, and all the bad things kind of get papered over because you keep making more and more money. Mm-hmm. Well, it reached a point where, remember I said the donors stopped giving money because they knew Their money wasn't going to go anywhere. That put a stop to the growth. So between the incompetence of fundraising, between people who are competent being replaced, between the kids taking the money, between Trump businesses taking the money, between Brad Pascal taking the money stopped growing, and now everyone was like, hey, where is this money? And as once the concentration came, like, where's all the money? At this, we would have to look up at something between 20 to 40 million.
Wow.
Was taken in, and he had a mental breakdown. He had a mental breakdown because he knew the walls were closing in, because obviously this is a crime. And now when they really, really need money and they can't spend money on Ohio, it's like, well, where is the money? Like,
well, does that fall under embezzlement or
yes,
something
it does.
else? Okay.
Yes, it does. And he had a mental breakdown.
Probably some fraud too.
Yes, all mental breakdown. Got drunk. and not naked, but like he took a shot, started threatening or beating his wife/girlfriend, and then she called the cops. Cops come in, he walks out the door, and the cops just slam him to the ground. There's a video, and once all that happened, that's when all the receipts came out. Like, hey, where is
right? Because once they started investigating, that's it, game over.
Yeah. So none of this is speculative.
Okay.
So that's another great history of the Trump campaign, like how much money. And by the way, Trump campaign is still pulling shenanigans now.
Right, opening lawsuits left and right.
No, like money
still embezzlement and fraud.
Yeah, there's still things going on in that. Again, I apologize for really wandering, but this just came out, I think, either yesterday or 2 days ago, where, like you were saying, all those lawsuits. So
right.
There's a legal defense fund. So Biden has a legal defense fund that they're ready for a cavalcade of lawyers. Trump's been saying he's going to sue forever, and he has.
He already started. He started, I think, in Michigan.
Right, Michigan.
Did he start in Nevada yet, or no? PA.
No.
That's right. Michigan, Pennsylvania. There's a third state, but it escapes my.
I think it would be
memory
Atlanta.
right
I think it's Georgia.
Possibly.
So they had a donation site for donations to the legal defense fund. This is the Trump defense fund. 2/3 or 3/4 of the way down, in fine print, amongst all the other terms and conditions, it says half of every dollar will go to paying off debts of the Trump campaign.
So they're campaigning for the defense fund in order to bankroll their campaign fund that's defunct?
Yes.
That sounds a little fraudulent too. I mean, I guess if you put it in writing...
And you accept it when you hit the terms.
And you, of course, everybody reads their end-user license agreement.
Thoroughly.
Why can't it read? The Sentai Pad episode of South Park.
You're right.
Sure.
So the Trump campaign is extremely fraudulent, and nothing in history. Actually, the Clinton campaign was really fraudulent.
Which one? Pick a Clinton.
The Hillary campaign.
Right. Well, we knew that she was a criminal and an embezzler going into it.
I don't. I don't have the receipts for that.
Allegedly, by the way.
Yeah.
We allegedly knew, because I don't think she was ever found guilty.
Right.
So just to be clear, allegedly,
Yeah.
she was involved in embezzling in criminal activities. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
But the receipts we do have with Hillary is that when they asked where her money went, because when her campaign failed, people were like, we gave you so much money. How is it possible you don't have money going to Wisconsin or Michigan and the states that she lost, that she was supposed to get?
Right.
And it turns out that when they were looking through the Hillary campaign and a dissection of what happened at the end, like how could she have failed with so much campaign capital? They found that so much of her money went into consultants. So it was like hordes and hordes of these super high paid consultants in her campaign that just sucked up so much of the capital necessary. Biden, in this year's election, at one point was considered the worst investment in terms of donations.
Wow.
This is so all throughout the time, and the receipts are there. This is not conspiracy. Between Iowa all the way up to South Carolina in the primaries.
Mm-hmm.
He was absolutely considered the worst candidate to give any money to, because something like one out of every seven. So out of $1 out of every $7 or $8 that you contributed to him would go to private planes.
Private planes to purchase or
Just-
to maintain or
Just travel.
wow.
And that was like, I remember reading that and I knew like that can't be good. And then I read further into it, and it was like everyone was angry. This is one of those things. Is like, how could you spend this much money on private transportation? Meanwhile, Bernie at the time, Bernie was leading. Bernie won Iowa. Bernie won Vermont? Of course, Bernie won Vermont. When all these straw polls were happening, Bernie was going on Econo Airlines every day, and that was one of his things. Like in the Man of the People, there's pictures of him in Econo seats.
Explain, just for our listeners, explain straw polls.
So the first two primaries of the U.S. Primary, at least for the Democratic side, start in Iowa, and they're not like everyone votes. Everyone gets to a polling station and they physically walk to like a side of the place that's like, oh, I'm a Biden voter, or I'm a Bernie voter, or I'm a Kamala voter. It's very convoluted. It's very stupid and antiquated, and it's kitschy, but it's the system we have. Again, at the beginning, so Biden is only the presidential nominee because the fix was in South Carolina. Biden, none of the original first couple of states he won. And, as soon as the fix was, and I call it the fix, and again, this is now a little bit into the gray category, but he won South Carolina, and all of a sudden Beto and everybody else just quit. Just everyone quit. The primaries, like everyone just gave up, like, oh no, we're done. And then Super Tuesday happened and he won everything, including states he didn't campaign in.
Right.
So for the second straight election season, the Democrats fixed who the candidate was going to be. The first fix was with Hillary, where they screwed Bernie, and the second fix was again screwing Bernie for Biden. Yeah, like the Biden campaign was, and again, I can't speak for how he was as a presidential candidate once he was nominated, because he far outraised money than Trump did.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Trump had all these other things going on, but Biden's machine was rolling. But while he was in the primary season for the Democratic nominee, his campaign was noted as one of the worst spenders. Like, you can't spend $1 out of $7 on private airlines. It's just madness. But he was confident, and maybe he knew something we didn't. So,
I think you said it earlier, the fix was in.
The fix was absolutely in.
How about that? Well, let's talk. We just both watched the acceptance speech, for lack of a better word.
Right, where he didn't say I accept.
You mentioned a key point earlier when we were talking prior to the Howlcast, is that nobody has come out and said that I voted for Biden because I didn't want Trump. It's all been like these fancy, flashy words, and
You're right. Biden.
I'm surprised nobody's had the chutzpah to come out and be like, I didn't want Trump in office again. That's why I voted. I don't care what Biden stands for.
People out in the street will tell you.
Yeah.
People out in the street will absolutely tell you, like, I didn't want Trump anymore. Not a single person that wanted Biden. I mean, I'm sure there's some percentage of people who voted Biden. I voted Biden. I'll admit how I voted.
Mm-hmm.
There's no compelling reason Biden gave to vote for him, other than I'm not Trump. What did Hillary do?
Because we've watched plenty of it. Biden barely made it through a meeting with world leaders. He had to take a break.
Yeah. And
disappear for a few hours to get some rest.
Right.
Now he's got 4 years of pure insanity to contend with.
I don't think his health is gonna hold up, and he's gonna make it. I think he's gonna
4 years.
He's gonna try to push it to a year, and then he'll retire.
You can't retire from the presidency.
Sure you can.
You can retire from the presidency?
Yeah.
Are you certain?
Mm-hmm. That's what the VP's for.
I thought the VP was in. Well, obviously the VP has their own duties, but I thought the VP stepped into the presidential office if the president had a major health crisis, or died, or was killed, or something like that. Not just like, hey, sorry, bad job interview. I just changed my mind.
No, it's there.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
I gotta educate myself a little bit more.
The founding fathers didn't think they allowed the door to be open for things like that to happen. And it makes sense why. I mean, do you really want someone who doesn't want to be there?
Well, Nixon, he was a personality
resigned.
types of presidents. There's the positive active, there's positive inactive, there's negative active, and there's negative inactive.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Nixon, I think he felt the negative inactive, that he didn't want to do it, he didn't want to be there, but he was there because he was the president, because he got elected.
No. The second time he was elected, he wanted to be there. It was when all the tapes came out, Watergate happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they gave him a choice. So this is one thing in common in politics. If you messed up, if you did something criminal, if you resign and go away on your own, the understanding is we're not going to pursue you.
Mm-hmm.
If you stay, we're going to pursue you. And with Nixon, the evidence was overwhelming. He knew he was cooked. And he was, well, let me resign. Ford came up. Ford pardoned Nixon.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, okay, everything is fine. We're not chasing you. We're not doing anything.
Right, okay.
And, okay, also I should let the people know I'm a registered Republican. So maybe some of my ideas will make more sense if you put me in that container. Nixon, when he was first run, was actually a great president.
Okay.
Nixon, when he lost to Kennedy, lost his goddamn mind. He completely lost his shit. And when he became president the second time, we didn't have the statesman we had the first time around. We had this crazy, angry, alcoholic, wife-abusing maniac. Because he felt he got cheated. But he felt that he should have been president again. And there's some young guy who no one's ever heard of, Catholic, oh my God, beat him. And he never really mentally came back. So
well, let's get into, we're almost a half hour in already, and we do want to talk about our election special, which is about...
Oh, this one, not the 70s one?
Yeah, not the 70s one.
Well, I mean, like, we got to, like...
Not the 60s, because that's, when Kennedy was around.
Any president can resign.
Okay. So we learned something tonight, folks, and I apologize for not educating myself beforehand, but I'm glad I learned something, and hopefully some of you did as well. So, the acceptance speech, for what it was, there's some key points. I have about 2 pages of notes on some of the key points that he mentioned. But all in all, to me, it sounded very generic. There was no statement of plans. It almost sounded like a cheerleader speech for Go America.
Yeah, like, let's all get together. He used 270 verses from 270 songs.
At 2 different points, he started quoting stuff from the Bible, and it ended up being almost exactly like song lyrics from some key 70s songs. And I perceived him as having a very measured Obama speech cadence throughout his entire speech, where he was measuring, and then the impactful pauses. Terrell, you noted his action with the teleprompters.
So Obama had this tick where he used the 2 teleprompters as spacing. So Obama would look at the left, say a bunch of bars, pause, look at the right, say a bunch of bars, pause, and left, right, left, right, left, right. And once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Right, which is exactly what Biden was doing tonight, too.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if he was using Obama-era speechwriters.
We should look into that and see who his actual speechwriters were and see if they were on the team.
Yeah.
That's something that we can put in the comments.
I think the guys who were officially speechwriters are huge podcasters, so that would, they might not be the guys, but the style was the same, the teleprompter usage was the same. He wants America to get back together and work as one. Biden is a Republican. So, I mean,
He can't be a Republican. He had on a blue suit and a blue tie tonight.
That's right.
To Raw.
He did.
Clearly that means...
Totes did. I mean...
Clearly that means you're a Democrat. The color of your tie. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, actually Trump got into trouble too many times because he wore his blue Trump ties too many times.
Right.
He got shit
I noticed in the beginning, he
Yeah.
wore those bright crimson red ties,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden they started becoming different colors.
Yeah.
The curious thing is, though, Trump has his own tie brand,
Yeah.
but it's on the inside of the tie. You have no idea what kind of tie you're looking at.
When I was in finance, I'll admit I used to like wearing Trump ties.
They're power ties.
They were power ties. They were shiny. They were glossy.
Yeah, I have
All
a Trump tie upstairs.
Trump ties were good.
It's great for weddings.
Yeah, and they were kind of on the cheap side because they were all made in China.
Oh, all right. We're getting a little off topic. So
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
see these two giant pages of notes that I have to roll?
Look, we're gonna get through it, man.
We're
I didn't
gonna
take
make
any
it.
notes because I was like, "This is bullshit."
All right, my friends. So the first key point. One of them was a throwaway comment. It was the renewed hope, a better tomorrow. It almost sounded like something that Princess Leia would have said in the original trilogy of Star Wars, almost. That was like a throwaway comment. But then he said something about rebuilding the middle class. And I don't know how you go about doing that without massive tax breaks for the middle class instead of the upper class. I don't know how you rebuild the middle class. We're getting squeezed out. There is almost no middle class left. It's either the 1%ers and then everybody else, and there's like some 0.5% or minimal percentage of the middle class in there that's still earning a living wage.
I mean, Bernie isn't wrong. Like in my research at work, we use Gini coefficients and we see what percentage of America owns capital, and America is an extremely unequal society. Again, this is an acceptance speech, so maybe we shouldn't have too much high hopes for actual.
That's true. It is an acceptance speech. It wasn't the defined points of the New Deal,
right,
or something like that, which he did mention briefly. He mentioned all of his historical compatriots in the Democratic Party. The next one that came up.
No, but going on to what you're saying though, he mentioned middle class. He mentioned America coming together, being united.
Mm-hmm.
It was a cheerleader speech. It was a
You're
speech.
stealing all my thunder here, Terrell.
No, you just said it.
No,
I just agreed with you. It was a cheerleader speech. It was unmemorable.
Generic.
But what if that's what America needs right now? We've had 4 years of traumatic Trump experience. Now we just want generic. We just want vanilla ice cream.
So this is my own personal thoughts. This is not any way affiliated with Terrell or documented anywhere, but in a way, America was addicted to Trump. The extremism,
yeah.
The opposing extremism.
Yeah.
What do you do with an addict? With an addict, you don't go cold turkey. That hardly ever works, right? You start at the top and then come back down.
You wean down.
So I think it should have been a little more firebrand rhetoric.
I have to agree with you completely. I didn't really think about it in those terms. I think you're 100% right. I do not think the people who've been angry on the left side, on the political left side, are hearing the speech and having good feelings.
Today, I was telling you earlier before the Howlcast that after 3 o'clock in the afternoon, once the votes were in, the call was made, I was still seeing rallies of pickup trucks with Trump flags.
Yeah.
They're not over yet.
I mean, I think, I don't know if later if you want to talk about Trumpism, but Trumpism isn't going away. And
now, I was under the impression that it was dying down after Trump got COVID. That they realized that he is infallible. His own supporters realized, he's not perfect.
Trump cultists, the 15% of diehards, the ones that we keep seeing on TV and the media keeps signal boosting, is these are what Trump people are.
Right, just the same thing with BLM. We keep seeing the riots instead of the guys defending, wrong word, folks. Standing in solidarity in front of the storefronts in the communities.
Yeah. We always see the worst.
Right, we're always seeing the worst case scenario.
Trump never got past 45% of the country. In the voting, I think it was 47% of the votes. You take away the 15 and you get what is a mass group of people who are conservative, who are politically Republican all their lives, who are reasonable, rational, thinking people who have other sets of beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about the cult members.
Right.
When Trump got COVID, that was and I insist, I think I'm right on this. When he got COVID, that was the pivot point for those people, because for those people, they're still thinking. Their ego isn't tied to this cult leader or cult of personality.
Mm-hmm.
They're still rational people that have a certain set of beliefs, that vote a certain way, and they're like, wait a minute, this guy's been telling us this has been fake, and now he's got it. And oh, by the way, he's got the best healthcare in the goddamn universe. I'm not going to have access to mononucleoid experimental vaccines and steroids and hydroquin and all this other stuff.
Right.
I don't have 17 doctors who's gonna wait on me hand and foot. Like, I can't listen to him. And so the pivot point with Trump is when he got COVID, and I think the election results show COVID is the only reason why he lost. If Trump didn't get COVID, he would have won in a landslide. Because Trump with COVID, being as incompetent, as stupid, as horrible as he was, he got 47% of the vote. It's like we're on a timeline where there's timelines out there where Trump didn't get COVID, and we're not talking about Biden.
Biden who? Biden who?
Yeah, that loser. That old guy. Why did they put him up? Like, why did the fix was in? They didn't work.
It's funny you just said that, because that probably would have been in Trump's victory speech. Would have been, that loser didn't have a chance.
Absolutely, he would speak his mind. Say what you will, he would say what is on his mind. He would have just talk shit right away. But if Trump didn't get COVID, that middle conservative or just Republican base wouldn't have disagreed with him that COVID was a big thing. But you had senior citizens who start pulling away, and you had females, white females specifically, who started pulling away in the suburbs. Why? Because white females in the suburbs care about parenting.
Mm-hmm.
And why did the senior citizens start to pull away? Because they didn't want to die. Why did Arizona turn? They didn't want to die. Arizona got COVID. They're like, yeah, this isn't working out.
Right.
Arizona is not going to be blue again. This was a one time.
How about that?
Yeah, Arizona at one point was the number 2 state for COVID infections until Wisconsin took over. So COVID changed the direction. Otherwise, Trump was going to win. Trump is absolutely, like, the amount of votes and how close things were completely tell a story. Forget the electoral college voting, but enough
popular vote.
Yeah, enough senior citizens, enough white suburban moms, enough of these key people just got clawed away, because after Trump got COVID, it was like a spell broke. And he was on steroids. And remember that first debate? That first debate, he was crazy because he was on roids. I'm sorry, excuse me. No, I have my time wrong. Please correct. The first debate, he was crazy because he was infected. And he didn't want to go to the hospital yet because he didn't want to show a weakness. He came back and he was even crazier because they gave him the steroids. So we had a
Keep in mind, folks, we're not talking about like musclehead, horse tranquilizer steroids.
No, he wasn't doing D-balls for his shoulders.
He's not doing like a 6-month cycle where he's getting hypodermics in his ass. We're talking about, I think, corticosteroids is specifically what we're referencing here, right?
No.
Or something else?
No, it's something else. There's a single treatment that we know works for COVID, and it's for people in mortal danger of dying. A certain set of very basic steroids, very cheap, turns out to have increased your probability of survival by 1/3.
Wow, and that's huge.
It's massive, and it was cheap. It was already made. It was already available, and if you have a friend or family or yourself who's in danger of dying, they will give it to you. They won't give it to you beforehand though, because the number of problems associated, the side effects are real. So they gave Trump that, along with 2 experimental drugs, along with hydrochloroquine, which doesn't work at all, along with a bunch of other stuff he insisted on getting. But so we had, in the first debate, he was on COVID. That's why he was so messed up. Also, every shot he was hunched over really badly. And then we had a steroided Trump. So if you're not in the cult, if you're not wearing a flag and the hat and running around,
driving around with your truck with the flags
right
off the back. So one thing I have to point out, Taral, is this year was the record voter turnout in history. I think maybe the last one that came close was 1908.
As a percentage?
As a percentage of the population that came out to vote. But besides that, as I said, I have these two giant sheets of paper of notes that I took. Right? See it, folks? Biden's acceptance speech got kind of Trumpy in the middle there. He said along the lines, actually, sorry, I wrote it down word for word, so it's not along the lines. He said, make America respected around the world again. Now, if I paraphrase that, that sounds a hell of a lot like make America great again.
Very much so.
Right?
It also sounds a lot like what Trump said in 2016, where he said he wanted America to be respected again, literally, on the world. Like, so it is quite Trumpian, what he said.
Quite Trumpian.
Yeah.
The next thing that he said in reference to Kamala is that it's possible in the U.S. to do anything that you want. And the implication was become vice president and or president. Now, my problem with that is you need to be a millionaire or at least extremely wealthy to get into the world of American politics and even joust for the presidency. Like, if you're a $40,000 a year type of person, you're probably not going to be the president of the United States of America.
I mean, Kamala became a millionaire when she married her husband, who was I think a tort lawyer. Or
Okay.
Tech lawyer. He was a millionaire tech lawyer who just happened to marry the Attorney General of California, so I'm sure nothing untoward is going on there.
Right, but once again, right, if you're a $40,000, even like a $60,000 or even a $120,000 a year person,
Yeah.
your chances of becoming the VP or the President of the United States are nil.
Yeah, not happening.
So you need to be a wealthy person of means already to even try. So what I've noticed in general for the U.S. presidency is that already it's one percenters that are leading the presidency.
The Senate is almost all millionaires, So again, I don't know how much critical we can be because historically that's always been the case.
It still sucks. Doesn't mean we have to like it.
Yeah, it's just, even since the Founding Fathers, the Founding Fathers are all very rich, land-owning.
Yes.
Magnates.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Yeah, so it's not... that's also the reason why they were so educated.
Mm-hmm.
They had the means.
That was also back in the day, though, that you needed to be wealthy to be educated.
Right, that's
or
right.
You needed to be from... I said that wrong. You needed to be from a wealthy family in order to be educated, because your average citizen couldn't even write their own name yet.
Right. So it's not... I don't know how much we can complain about it, but it's definitely...
Well, sure. Here's the complaint, right?
Yeah.
How does money grant you the ability to determine what's best for America? How come the pizza shop guy doesn't get to decide what's best for America, or the barista?
Well, isn't that the tail end of capitalism, and also like America? How many religions in America or philosophies in America say if you have money, God loves you, and you were right? I mean, there's so many. What
was the guy? It was just about a month ago. The guy that said God wants me to be a billionaire, and he was a televangelist appealing to his flock. And then there was a guy back in the 80s. Was it Billy Graham?
Billy Graham.
He was like, God's going to kill me if you don't send me money now.
Right.
God's going to call me home if you don't.
The success gospel.
That's another Howlcast, my friend, because I can go on forever about that. But some other key points that I was actually impressed with and kind of surprised about. He said something that I was really surprised with. He said, stop treating opponents as enemies. He said that word for word. I tried to write it down as fast as I could when he was speaking. Mm-hmm. He was speaking surprisingly fast. I think they juiced up Joe tonight with some Red Bull before he came on the stage. And
they also put bronzer on him.
They did put bronzer on him, too.
This is really Trumpy.
You know what? Yeah, he did have like a Trump glow.
He had a Trump glow.
That was really weird.
Yeah, we know he's not been out in the sun, but he's definitely had a glow.
I said it while we were watching the address or the victory speech. He looks like a really old Bruce Campbell in profile.
With the hair slicked back?
The hair and the chin. He actually has, if you look at Biden, he's got the dimple in the middle of his chin.
He looked handsome, but also he looked several shades darker than
usual.
Than usual. It was
So, but I was really surprised when he said, well, I guess I shouldn't be surprised because it was the second half of his conciliatory section of his victory speech, where he said, "Stop treating opponents as enemies."
Political opponents, yeah.
Well, not only that, I think he meant that for the public, because in a way, he also said something after that, which I didn't write down. I should have, but he was thankful for even everybody that didn't vote for him. If you voted for the other guy, or you voted for him, we're all American citizens. Stop treating your opponents as enemies. We need to come together.
He's the president of the entire country, not just one half. Yeah.
Well, I'm curious. I can't wait to see.
I mean, it's Hakuna Matata bullshit. What he's basically saying is, don't expect anything.
From that line, you got don't expect anything?
Yeah, because he's not going to do anything to,
rectify the divide, you think?
No. Expect anything in terms of policy. There's only one thing that we can expect Joe Biden to do, and that's be better about COVID.
Right.
Which is fantastic.
Well, that's true. He did say that tonight, that he already built a committee. You can speak about this, Terrell, because I think you know who's on it. He did say that he's already got scientists and doctors selected for a committee to contend with COVID. And what I really appreciated, because for folks out there in Howlcast land, I survived COVID. It took me 7 weeks, but I finally got over it. To hear the president acknowledge it as a real threat and sound like they're going to proactively be doing something about it was definitely a feather in Biden's cap for me.
100%. The committee is going to be a 13-man committee. The
13-person committee, bro.
13-person committee.
Can't say man anymore. That's illegal.
3 will be 3 medical experts, heads of medical schools and research, and 5 will be Democrat, 5 will be Republican. So it's a bipartisan committee headed by 3 experts. So he's hoping.
I want to read those reports once they get started.
Yeah.
I doubt I'll be able to read them because they'll probably be multi-100-page reports, and I work for a living, so I
can read the executive summary.
But then he also said he also acknowledged climate change, which I was really surprised about, because for the most part the government for the past climate change era has been in denial.
Right.
So to hear the president-elect say that was very hopeful for me, to have that acknowledged.
And to add, he also in official terms, he said that the Biden administration hopes to do multiple executive orders to roll back Trump executive orders. So he's going to undo a lot of Trump deregulations of climate.
I hope he does something about the pipelines too.
What do you mean?
The pipelines, coming through Alaska, down through Canada, through the reserves.
Trans-Canada?
Yeah.
Oh.
Going through, Native American lands that they don't want them there, and the company's like, too bad, we're building it anyway.
I mean, not to get too far away, but economics seems to be dealing with that good enough.
It seems like it's a astoundingly
dumb economic move.
Right, because it costs so much, and then you have one disaster, and you're ruined.
Right. So it seems like more than politics, economics has handled the Trans-Canada pipeline. But he has acknowledged COVID, he has acknowledged climate change, but I don't think we're going to get anything for the middle class. I don't think we're going to get anything but more tax cuts for the rich. I don't think he's just a placeholder. Or he'll do whatever the corporate donors tell him to do, which is probably...
And that leads into my next point, whatever the religious folks tell him to do too. Because he mentioned, as I said earlier, he mentioned 2 Psalms. Well, there was one that was... he called it the first one a Bible verse. The second reference, he actually called it a Psalm. Both times he started quoting 70s rock songs.
Yeah. It was a little shocking to hear him talk religion.
Especially at the end, because the very end, the last 30 seconds or 45 seconds of his victory speech was all about being a God-fearing person and that God wants us all to come together.
Right.
And I thought I think it's somewhere in the First Amendment, the separation of church and state, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that hasn't happened in the last 50 years, maybe the last 100 years.
Do you think it was just a bone to the evangelicals?
Who knows how much money they threw at him? But
they didn't throw any.
You don't think so?
No, the evangelicals didn't throw any. They were doing all-night marathon prayers.
For Trump?
For Trump, yeah. I mean, so I just wonder if he was trying to calm the divide by trying to be a bit more biblical and religious.
No,
to get
he said his grandpappy. I mean, he said grandpappy to Ra.
Yeah.
His grandpappy told him, and then he referenced his I think he said grandmother on the second reference, to go out and spread the faith, not just take the faith in, but go out and spread the faith.
This is not. This is what I mean by Hakuna Matata bullshit. Like, no one wants, the people who voted for Biden didn't want that.
Very mild theocracy
Yeah.
there instead of democracy under Biden, but we'll see. I guess time will tell.
It's. I mean, maybe it's just. I think it's BS. I think he was just trying to say something for the religious folks, but
all right,
because you know what, the numbers aren't finalized yet. But last time, 2016, almost 87% of all evangelicals voted Trump. And so they're going to be factored, this election, they're going to be a factor in, upcoming elections. So maybe it was just strange. The religious stuff was strange. The things that sounded like song verses was strange.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of thought he went on a little bit longer than he should have.
It didn't feel that long for me. It felt like, it almost felt like it was just right time length because I didn't start losing attention.
Okay.
But don't forget, he was very, as I said earlier, he was definitely juiced up on Red Bull or something. Because he was super energetic.
Yeah.
And he was firing off everything left and right.
And I hope that's the way he's gonna be. I mean, the last couple of times we've saw him, we're knee deep in election, and as a man of his age, he should be tired, and he sounded tired.
Right, and plus there was the news reports that he met with some world leaders, and he had to take a break in the middle of the conference.
Yeah.
And disappear for a few hours.
I think Herbert Walker Bush did the same too. He was also, it was a standard speech in the beginning that got strange at the end or unexpected at the end.
Right. It was definitely generic, and then it went very off the rails, I think.
Yeah.
Even though it was clear he was still reading, I think he was reading the prompter.
No, he was absolutely.
He was still left and right.
He was doing the.
And I was watching his eyes, and he was definitely scanning the lines.
Oh, you know what you pointed out that was really both of us were shocked, and we didn't see the bulletproof glass that he was behind.
Oh, right. At the end, though, when they panned out, the cameras panned out,
I was like,
he was behind bulletproof glass. But I guess he's the president now, so...
And considering the terrorist threat...
That's what we didn't see. There was no visible Secret Service.
Bulletproof glass, probably.
That or they didn't want the optics that would show him having protection nearby. They're probably off screen or off camera or in the crowd, maybe.
Right. Definitely in the crowd. Biden had full Secret Service detail yesterday. Secret Service determined he was going to win yesterday, and they sent the full squad.
They're sorry, Trump, we're going to the other guy?
Yeah, they did. Yeah. That's what happened.
But even if you're an ex-president, you still get a Secret Service detail.
Not the full.
No, you don't get the full panoply of war that comes with the Secret Service. Yeah. No, but it's still a bad look if a former president gets offed by a foreign, actor.
Has there ever been an attempt? Do you think?
Reagan was still in office when there was the assassination. Well, I don't know if it was an assassination.
It was definitely.
When they tried to kill him, he was still in office. Kennedy, obviously the most popular. I think, and then obviously Lincoln, but he was still in office.
Yeah. No one outside.
I can't think of anybody off the top of my head. I bet you there's a case
that we just
don't probably
know
is. We just probably don't know it because we're riffing off of our personal knowledge bases right now.
No, I mean probably because the Secret Service does a lot of work that just doesn't get
right, and we don't see it. We don't hear about it.
I think you're right. I think it's probably for optics. They wanted the optics of family. They brought the entire family.
And then not only his family, Kamala's family came out on stage too.
It was very multicultural, very cool.
Anyway, folks, it's about that time. If this season of what happens next in the election taught me anything, folks, it's to start learning about your political structure. It really provided me the impetus to go out and learn how ours works, or at least to start learning about the people that are saying they want to represent us. I did some deep dives on the local representatives because some of them were on my ballot as well. Although oddly, all the political ads from my area, not one of them was from my area. Not one of the representatives was on my ballot. But definitely educate yourself. Don't just take everything for granted that the news tells you. Because it used to be that the news would tell you a news story and you had to figure out what you thought about it. And now the news tells you what to think about a news story, and you have to figure out if it's even real or not. So educate yourselves, learn about the political system in the U.S., and pay attention to what's going on. On that note, Terrell?
I don't think the election season's over. We have probably the most important Senate election happening in Georgia. So Georgia basically flipped for Biden. They have the current Senate as it is now is 48-48, Democrats, Republican. Georgia has a very strange and unusual situation where both of their senators are up for the re-election. Both their Senate seats. They just had their runoff. So from now till January, it's going to be the most expensive Senate election in U.S. history, because if the Democrats get one seat, they can actually run the Senate, because if it's 49-49, Kamala Harris is the tie-breaking vote. If Republicans get both seats in Georgia, which they're considered most likely to do, then Mitch McConnell, the shadow president, will basically be able to stop everything Biden wants to do.
Wow.
So the election season is absolutely not over. Like, the drama is not over.
Speaking of the drama, Terrell, it makes me also think of what happens come January when it's time for Trump to vacate the White House. You think he's going to go kicking and screaming, or you think he's going to go quietly?
He has said on record he's not leaving. He says he's won.
I know, that came up today on the news too, that he's convinced there's an extra 71 million votes out there for him that weren't counted.
He's going to go kicking and screaming because immediately once January is over, he's going to be prosecuted. His whole thing was to be president so he can keep the prosecutions away and the banks away.
Mm-hmm.
So his actions are actually quite logical. If you're a criminal and you know you're guilty and you know the only reason why you weren't put into prison or you kept everything at bay was because you were president and had presidential immunity. Yeah, that's why he works so hard. Everything is so that he doesn't go to prison, and there's at least 5 court cases coming after him. Only one of them that he can be pardoned for. Only one of them is federal. The other 4, 2 of them are personal, and 3 are from states. He's looking at losing his empire. Douchebank is coming after him now. Douchebank, not officially but unofficially, basically let it be known that if he's not president, they want all their loan money.
Wow.
Which is $1.5 billion.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens in January, Thrall. Maybe we'll revisit that then. So
that he's going to get escorted out? He wants civil war. That's the only thing. He wants civil war. That's long and short of it.
That was a horrible Avengers movie, by the way. The comic book was way better.
I thought it was fun. Civil War was fun.
Oh, it was fun. It was a visual spectacular, especially the fight at the airport.
Yeah.
Those comic books were so much better. The motivation for it to come out, the motivation that started the chain of events
made more sense.
A hell of a lot more sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, Terrell, now we're way off topic.
Civil War 3 sucked. Civil War 3 was horrible. Captain Marvel? That was horrible.
All right, listen, my friend. Is it that time of night? It's time to let our listeners get back to whatever they're doing.
Yeah, right.
So on that note, folks, have a good evening. Pay attention to what happens between now and January. And
Georgia.
Educate yourselves on the political process of the U.S. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night. Hey, it's Terrell again. Just one of the ideas I think me and Lone would need to kind of talk more about is...
Did you just call me Lone Wood?
I just said
Lone Wolf.
I just said Lone.
Lone Wolf.
Yeah, like,
all right, start over. It's Lone Wolf.
Okay. Hi, it's Terrell again. I think we need to talk a little bit more, and this is about Lone Wolf's idea about addicts, U.S. as an addict for drama, and my real anti-peace message. So, Lone Wolf's idea, just to recap, was that with Trump we were addicted to drama, we were addicted to strangeness, and we were addicted to anger and responding and virtue signaling and all this other stuff that came with Trump. You know, whether you agreed with him or disagreed with him, it was this hype cycle over and over and over, and it was exhausting, but we were still addicts. And his idea was that, well, if we were addicts, you don't go cold turkey, because that almost never works, or the consequences to your body or your mind are not good when you're addicted to substances. Are we with Biden talking about one America and getting along, this, that, and the other, are we going cold turkey even though we were just addicts 2 days ago? And I honestly, I believe that's an incredibly insightful theory, and I just wanted to talk a little bit more about it. Obviously, we signed off, so most of our thoughts are already there, so this is just a concentrated portion.
This is sort of our postscript, because we thought perhaps we should explore this a little bit more, but my contention is, if you're an addict, as Terrell just said, and I think I said earlier, you don't stop cold turkey, which is kind of like what Biden's acceptance speech sounded like.
Yeah.
I thoroughly expected him to throw in some trash to Trump, because I think in one of the debates he looked at Trump and said, "Oh, shut up."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I expected there to be a little, maybe not the whole acceptance speech, but like just a quick quip of some trash thrown at Trump. And instead it was, you're right, it's the one America, everybody come together. But you can't go from level 10 back to level 1 and quit cold turkey. America still needs that dramatic fix. So I think we still need to be at the 10 with some fiery rhetoric, and then Biden starts coming down in stages as he goes to work on fixing the issues.
If Trump was a 10, go to an 8.
Yeah.
Or go to...
But don't drop down to the bottom of the scale and try and work your way back up. You got to ride that wave and then, start weaning yourself off, weaning America off the hype. And the sensationalism and the glamorizing of the madness is the biggest problem.
It's addictive.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so we both agree, Terrell and I both agree, that it needs to be brought down in stages instead of just assuming, well, I'm president now, everything's going to be okay.
Well, we know. I know specifically people who are much more on the left, or self-identify as hardcore leftists.
Oh, we both know.
And what do you think their reaction is now? Like, they voted not Trump. No one voted for Biden. They voted not Trump. And to go from not voting not Trump and hearing like, oh, we have to be friends again? Like, oh, we're all one. We're going to forgive? I'm super confident that people who have suffered greatly underneath Trump, or who have been extremely emotionally heightened, anti-Trumpists, they're hearing this and they're just like, what? What do you mean? Yeah,
they're all up in arms and militant now, and then what do you do?
Yeah, you can't. You're not going to get people who are militant, including me. I went early voting. I stood out there in the rain for 2.5 hours in freezing rain to vote, because I was just like, we gotta vote. Early. Like, I'm including myself in that. You're telling people who are so energized and fearful, that people voted in this election out of fear, that we're all friends again, everything's fine, the last 4 years didn't happen, the owning the libs didn't happen, all the Fox News stuff didn't happen, it's frankly, like, after you put it and I'm thinking about it, the more and more idiotic it sounds. It sounds stupid. It sounds like that, yes, the country needs to heal. Absolutely. I'm not saying we should be hiding.
Right, I agree. We shouldn't stay at a 10. We can't stay there because then you're going to burn out.
Right.
Then the body starts to die.
Right. But we just had 2 attempted terrorist attacks during the election. Yeah, twice.
So you need to elaborate on that, sir.
The smaller one, the smaller one was an armed man went to a polling site, wanted to stop the illegal votes. The bigger one was these I think 4 Virginia men who were QAnon fanatics. Mm-hmm. They got in their Hummer, so these are well-off dudes. They came in with a box full of fake ballots and ghost guns and arms. They were all ready.
No, it's a ghost gun.
All the serial numbers have been wiped out.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So you can't.
So untraceable.
Untraceable, okay. Unregistered. They came ready for war, and they wanted to go to a Philadelphia ballot site. Originally, the story was there was these guys who got on a Hummer from Virginia, and they were going to Philadelphia. Someone tipped them off. Second thing we found out is they had fake ballots. They wanted to give the Philadelphia site fake ballots and then tip off a news agency, hey, look, there's fake ballots in Philadelphia. and that way they would stop the vote. And now what it's looking like was they wanted to use those box of fake ballots to go into the polling site, to go, once they're inside, they take their arms and take people hostage.
Wow.
So this is yesterday.
Recent. Yeah, it had to be recent.
Yeah, this is yesterday. So you're telling me we're going to go from 10 to Hakuna Matata 0?
Right,
Well,
so you've got those guys, which are clearly militant Trump supporters, to Antifa on the other side of it. And now they're supposed to drop their arms down and give up the chop.
Oh, yeah, we're done. We're done.
And, okay, everything's cool now. Come on in, folks.
Systemic racism's over. Biden's in charge. The guy who was friends with segregationists for the first half of his career. Like, yeah, good effing luck. like, so this is the more, and again, this is the reason why we're doing the postscript, is because the more I think about Lone Wolf's idea, it's brilliant, and it's making me feel stupid because this is idiotic.
Terrell, you're one of the most brilliant people I know. So don't worry about it. Don't feel stupid.
But it is idiotic, though.
It is idiotic to expect a cessation of divisiveness.
Right. And Biden is already, considered, going to senility.
Oh, yeah. He definitely has early onset dementia. Well, it's not early onset. The guy's almost 70. He definitely has early stage dementia.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is not helping, because this is what a guy whose fastball is gone would say. Like, why don't we all just get along? Everything's fine. He's not awake. That's a person who's not awake.
He's asleep at the wheel, huh?
Yeah.
Mm.
So we voted not Trump.
Right. And
the Democrat machine pick the two people who would absolutely take every order, and they don't have a vision. They're going to take orders, and they're not Trump. So that's the situation America is in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's bizarre where we're at. And Trump is still there, and he wants a civil war because that's the only way he'll keep out of prison. And Georgia thing is happening. And by the way, COVID is firing on out of control at 135,000 cases a day.
Not only that, Italy, I think it was today or yesterday, Italy had a record number of new cases. They had 38,000 new cases in one day.
Oh God, it's
38,000 in a day.
I mean, is our we're going off base, but is this election system outputting the best people we can get out of this?
Oh, not at all.
300 million people in this country, in the United States. Are these the people? Is this the best mind?
The best we have to put forward? No, absolutely not.
And this goes back to what you were saying in the beginning of the podcast. You have to be rich. You have to have compromised morals, mm-hmm. so you can get the money, so you can get a chance to be president. It's brutal to think we have a man who's served for all his life, who's never had a job in his entire life, other than being a politician,
mm-hmm.
be ahead of the economic wheel.
Say that again. Be ahead of what?
The wheel of the economy.
Right.
Who took the wheel from a guy who's been bankrupt 6 times, is a con artist, and is definitely doing money laundering. Whose dad gave him $450 million to start his life with, and he spent it all, and he lost it all.
I could blow $450 million.
I would love to blow, but so is this the best? Is this the best we can do?
No, but as you pointed out, it's not Trump. Right, it's take it or leave it. I don't really care how anybody feels about it right now. When it was originally Hillary Clinton and Trump, right? It was not Hillary. Not Clinton. Vote not Clinton.
Right.
Right? Because you knew coming into it that she was most likely a crook, that she was definitely corrupt.
Yeah,
absolutely. And the other guy, even though everybody knows Trump from all his TV shows,
he was the unknown.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. He was the unknown. We're in the same situation. Now we know what the unknown is all about.
Right.
Now it's vote not Trump.
Yeah.
Not vote for the better of the two.
No.
Vote not Trump.
Vote not Trump. I voted Trump the first 2016 because originally before Trump really broke through, again, my rationale was it was supposed to be Jeb Bush versus Hillary. And I thought, I'm an immigrant to the United States, and I thought, like, wait a minute, like back home, my country, Bangladesh, politics is a family game. 3 families run the whole country.
Mm-hmm.
Or run the parties that run the country. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, wait a minute, are we going to get another Clinton or another Bush? Wait a minute, is this what the U.S. is about? Is this a banana republic that we're going to have like family businesses? Like this is going to
the country becomes a family business.
Yeah, this is the 3rd Bush that's going to be president, or the 2nd Clinton. Oh, by the way, Clinton never had she had a job. She was a lawyer. She was actually really good. But she became senator of New York State, the state I'm in.
Why? Like, right? Why?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Yeah, like no one contested her.
So imagine this, right?
Yeah, like...
Imagine Hillary won. Who's coming down the pipe to be president after her? Think about that for a second.
Right.
Rhymes with Chelsea Piers.
Yeah. I mean, Hillary started making noise about Chelsea becoming a politician.
Yep.
I mean, so I voted Trump not because I liked Trump, because I knew he was a bullshit con artist, because New York City, we all know.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want America to be a banana republic where these same families are running the shit like a show.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't regret my decision to vote Trump, even though I hate him with all my guts. But at the time he was the unknown, I didn't know he was going to be this exceedingly racist and this exceedingly bad. And this exceedingly stressful to everybody. But he was the unknown. It was like, I knew Hillary. I couldn't vote Hillary because it's like, this shouldn't be, America should not be a family business. And I couldn't vote Jeb because, again, same thing.
Right.
Trump was the FU candidate. And now Trump was the no. We know what it is like, and it's going to be worse. He said it himself. He was like, oh, I'm not going to hold back this time. I know what I'm doing now. And there was no, like, adults in the room. Because when Trump first got in, there were all these people who were supposed to be adults in the room moderating him.
Yeah, his handlers.
The handlers. He fired all his handlers.
He fired his entire administration, pretty much.
Right. Everyone is just yes men now.
His cabinet, not his administration. He fired his entire cabinet.
Right.
I think he fired just about everybody.
Every single military official that he's worked with has hated him and has said, please vote Biden.
Wow.
The ones that can, the ones in power still with a job, they out of obligation, they cannot endorse. But every single one who's out of the military has said, please do not do.
I have to mention one other thing here, Terrell, before we finish up for the night. Is anybody listening to this is going to think that we are anti-Trump and pro-Biden, but folks, that's not the case.
Dude,
we're just observers.
I don't think we sounded pro-Biden.
No, we definitely didn't sound pro-Biden. We just vote not Trump.
Yeah.
But Terrell and I, or at least I'm not going to say I identify because that's just stupid. I consider myself a moderate. I have some opinions on both sides of the aisle. So keep in mind, we're not pro-Biden and anti-Trump.
What we are is in despair. Look at these. These are horrible choices.
Mm-hmm.
For the second straight election. These, either we were going to get Jeb, which the machine and the Republican side was on board with,
mm-hmm.
or we were going to get Clinton. This time we were either going to get Trump, or we were going to get the machine, the Democratic machine, chosen. If we had a room of 100 random people we picked out of a phone book, I bet you we can find at least 10 people better qualified.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll bet you we got one raging racist who's a con artist, and we got one guy who's in advanced stages or beginning stages of senility. Like, I wouldn't trust either one of them to run a McDonald's.
All right, on that note, Terrell, this is the end of our postscript.
Yeah, we can...
Once again, good night, everyone. We'll catch you in a week.
Have a good one.